Hi, and welcome to the next episode of Where Google is Going and how to position your business so you can profit. Now, in a moment, the real guru of Google Hangouts on air, Ronnie Bincer, is going to join me, and together we're going to tell you where Google Hangouts are going. But first, because Google is the biggest force in business today. I mean, it's just the most dominant force. It interacts with all of our businesses. I created this business series to give you a virtual master's degree and really leveraging Google, where Google's headed so you can turn a profit or help your clients do so. Now, insights like I'm going to share today helped me generate 1.1 million social followers in the last 12 months. And the reality is, I'm not a genius, and you don't have to be either. You just have to be resourceful. And with being resourceful, you have to be open to learning from others. And that's why we're going to be talking with Ronnie. So if you know where Google's headed, you can get into their flow. You can properly position your business, and you can profit from being there long before your competitors have. So over the coming months, I'm going to share with you my personal research conversations with rock stars in this industry on Google's 8 primary service sectors, which include search, content, social, YouTube, mobile, tech, health, digital sales, all wrapped up into one big Google master's degree. Plus, in each of these interviews, I'm going to challenge myself and also the guests to tell you, how can you turn a profit from this inside knowledge? And that's why Ronnie Bincer from Hangout Mastery is with me to talk about Google Plus Hangouts on air. Hi, Ronnie.
Hi, Todd. Let's see, out of that list that you just rattled off, I think we've got search, we've got social, we've got content, and we've got YouTube. So that's 4 out of those 8 just with Hangouts.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Look, video gets the best search results, the longest time on site, the most links and shares and any other content. So, for you and I, we're like blood brothers in this regard, where we understand the power of video and how to really leverage it. So I've been really excited to do this. So Ronnie, right from the beginning, just for people who may watch this on demand, like on YouTube, or they may see it socially, any place other than a Hangout on air, what is a Google Plus Hangout on air, man?
Hey, the simplest way to look at it is you've got your own TV station on your computer. You've got the ability to do a broadcast live like we're doing right now, and then it automatically, and yes, I love that word, automatically becomes a YouTube video for you when you're done. There's really nothing you need to do except know how to use the tool, which is something that I help people do. It's a broadcast environment that automatically creates a video.
So I used to be a talk show host on the number 1 and number 2 stations in Arizona. I led digital marketing for 7 national talk shows out of Hollywood. And when I saw Google Plus and they rolled out Hangouts on air, I thought, well, that's a whole broadcast studio right inside of my computer. And it got my wheels spinning. So in a moment, I'm going to share some cool things that I've done, some ways I've profited. But first, let's take the first step in this conversation of where is Google headed. Ronnie, where's Google headed with Hangouts? What's the big path over the next year or the next 2 years with Google Plus and the Hangouts?
Year or 2 years? Wow, that's I
You
don't
sure
know.
you want 10 years?
No, I can't do that. That's more like 50 years in internet time. So what's happening with Hangouts is they're getting better and better as far as the quality, the ability to bring this visual communication thing into the world and let it flow with less and less difficulty is, I think, part of the future. So technology-wise, some of the things that are happening is they're taking away some of the barriers to entry. There's a thing called a plugin that for years everybody that's been using this tool have had to use, and right now it's actually rolling out where you can do plugin lists. In fact, mine right now, because I'm part of a testing environment for the Hangouts, mine is plugin lists. This is an example right now of something that's going to be coming to everybody. I'm not using a plugin. It's nerdy, it doesn't matter, but the bottom line is here. Where it does matter is when it's time to bring somebody into the conversation that has never done it before, there's one less problem for them to deal with. They don't have to download anything. They just hit a couple of buttons, and now they're as part of the conversation with you.
That's a really good point. It reminded me of when when Wirebuzz was asked by Google to host their World Cancer Day broadcast for our breast cancer answers and our prostate cancer live and colon cancer answers campaigns, which have gone viral and have roughly about 1 million followers socially. And so we went and signed up all of the biggest names on in the fight against cancer. I'm gonna pop it up on my screen because I just happen to have this cool slide about it. And so as we were hosting this event, we realized we had to, in order for it to be really legitimate, we had to go to the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and the American Cancer Society and Komen, and the United Nations World Health Organization, and bring them to the table. And what we found is that really they weren't already on Google+. So we had to sign them up, and because they had to download the plugin, that's a point of friction, right?
Right.
That's a big speed bump or a hurdle to get over. And now that they're getting to the point where this will eventually be rolled out to every user, it really allows Hangouts on Air to be accessible for people that are less tech savvy. Would you agree with that?
I would agree, yes. And then some other things that where it's headed is I believe there's going to be more and more people utilizing the tool in their own special way. Slightly different than everyone else. They're trying to take, or let's put it this way, Google's giving us more options. I personally have a very strong opinion as to what's one of the better ways to use it, but other people are now starting to embrace it and utilize it in nothing else, a presentation tool. It allows us to simply get online, create a video, the content is created right here, and then that video can be reused in many, many different ways. So as a presentation tool, it's actually very, very valuable. But to me, you know, one of the biggest things is the interaction. I love the fact that we can have an interactive conversation, not only between you and I, but between you, me, and anyone else that's out there watching live. That is, in my opinion, one of the strongest points of this tool.
Yeah, I also see the real value in allowing your partners to stream the live event from a Hangout on their websites and on their social networks, because like we did in World Cancer Day, all those organizations jumped in and put the live feed on their site. And so what that ended up doing is it turned a campaign that was being led by us into, and you can see here that Komen used our live streaming feed and put it on their website. Now, we were just at that point, a small little breast cancer cause, but we were really tapping into huge audiences that already had credibility and social reach, and so that allowed us to really make sure that our message got out there and people knew about us. And when people use Hangouts that way, it's a really valuable tool.
Yeah, the tool itself, we got to remember this is a broadcast medium. But we're using YouTube to do the broadcasting. So if you're at all interested or you know about how YouTube works, there's a thing called an embed. And you can take that video embed and stick it right on your website or hundreds of websites. And that is the portal to be able to view this thing live. And this is part that really escapes most people, but it's the magic of it. Once the live part's done, now there's a video in the very same spot. You don't have to change anything, and then they can watch that replay. It's like a built-in DVR without doing anything.
Right, and that's so valuable, because if you can get a partner that's got a ton of credibility to stream it off their site or to put that embed code, and then after the event it's on demand, well, that's also, in many ways, there will be, if you can get them to put text with a link back to your site for more information, then you've now got a link from a really large organization. In our case, it was .gov sites all over the world that were linking and sharing, and that's a wonderful game changer for your overall search link strategy. All right, so down the road, do you see a time where Hangouts on Air are, you have the option to charge for them, for people to watch them live or on demand?
Yes and no. I actually do that now. And I do it because I have a membership community where I do basically private training sessions for those that have paid to gain access. And so I use, the Hangout tool has the function to be able to go public, private, or unlisted. I use the private part. And private means I have to give specific permissions. And so it is possible right now. I do it daily, actually. And so, but as far as a button that you click and say, I want this to go privately, I honestly don't know, because I don't think Google gets that. You know, they make wonderful tools, but I don't know that they necessarily know the best or the common uses of those tools.
Okay, it's really interesting. We're just about to embark in uh, a really interesting path. So, listen, for more information on Ronnie, he just mentioned his service that he provides. It's thehangouthelper.com, and I'll give that in just a few moments again. But Ronnie, I had one of my friends at YouTube shared with me his computer screen when we were together one day, and I saw a inside the account manager settings with each of the videos a prototype of what was being worked on, where you could buy or you could charge like you would for iTunes. And when I saw that, I saw the future, and it was in 3D, and the future was. But the tool, as I saw it, looked just like iTunes in the way that you would purchase something before you watch it, and on the back end you could set the appropriate price. And the way that I think Google and YouTube are headed is YouTube's going to be like iTunes, but they've circumvented the whole middleman, which is a big part of Google's overall business strategy of removing that middleman and just going straight to the content creator. And if they can charge, then they can tap into some really nice income stream that isn't there right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of opportunity for growth of the monetization aspect of these things, and I think they're still trying to figure out what's the right model to use, what's the right buttons to push. Is it like a tip jar thing? Is it do you pay money before you have access to things like that? Those are things that for a while, many of us in the video world have been wanting to see. So they are bringing in some new special things. And just someone in the comments are asking me, oh no, they said everything's fine now, so we're good. So Google rolls out things frequently to test. And then if they get good feedback, then they'll develop it further. And so you and I have seen this. There's a thing they call shoppable Hangouts. And shoppable Hangouts they only did it with the big boys, the big brands, where you could show a list of things on the side of the Hangout that people could buy while you're talking about it. It's like, I don't know how many brand mentions we want to say, but QVC channel on steroids or things like that. So they've taken that and they're about to roll out, I know I can say it because it's somewhat public at this point, they're about to roll out a thing called the Showcase app. And the Showcase app is going to allow us to be live in a broadcast and add videos on the side that people can, I said videos, which they can be, but also links to a website. So you can add links that people, while you're doing your presentation, they can click on those links and go off and do whatever it is you've asked them to do over there. So sign up for my free download of this ebook. Just click the link there, and by the way, I'm going to turn the link off after 15 minutes so you have urgency that you can bake right into your presentation.
See, that's interesting right there. If you know where Google's headed, if you've got an idea of the path that Google is going, you can start positioning yourself and your clients to ultimately be able to profit from it. Now, coming up in this Hangout, as you know, it's my commitment to give you some examples in each of the big Google service sectors of how you can start making money from knowing this inside information. I'm going to share with you some ways that I've been using Hangouts over the last couple of years, and what works for our business and for our clients. And so just stay tuned, and if you have any questions, we're monitoring the comments right now, and if they fit within the flow, Ronnie and I, by all means, will jump in and start having that conversation with you. Why are Hangouts different, Ronnie, from other video conferencing software like Skype?
Part of it, in my mind, has to do with where they take place or where they potentially could take place, and that's inside of a social environment. The other part that matters is the fact that you're creating content. It's not just having a connection meeting where you're meeting with people, but it's automatically, as an option we talked about, going to be creating a video for you. So this is creation of content. You don't worry about geography. That's not that different than Skype. Skype can do that anywhere in the world as well. But then there's a third piece. It's owned by a little company we all know and love called Google. So the infrastructure, the capability, and you know that the strength of the network is without equal. I mean, Google, it's just hard to, there's nobody else like them. So they own YouTube, they own Google, they own Google Plus. These parts and pieces are all involved with what's going on with the Hangouts, and they all work very, very well together. So creating content as well as connecting with people, and the fact that it's in a social space, which to me is the future for SEO when you get right down to it. All those things combined, I think, really make the Hangout its own unique presentation and interactive platform.
All right, so you guys might have heard Ronnie just kind of tease the future of search in the social space. Ronnie, the way I look at it, and correct me if you think I got off track on this, but I see Google's primary goal as being providing the most relevant and most valuable content on the top of search every time somebody gets onto search. That's its core business. And with that, it looks at a variety of factors today, but as it develops its algorithm, and you're starting to already see it with Hummingbird right now and semantic search, but where Google's really headed is harnessing the wisdom of the masses and using social signals like time on a piece of content that can happen socially, how long somebody's looking at video, how many shares, how many plus ones, how many likes, eventually will allow Google to determine, and for our bilingual audience, it'll allow Google to determine quién es más macho, right? Who is the most macho in each business vertical or each key searchable phrase. And those are the people that'll end up in search. So by laying out your foundation and using tools like Google Plus, you end up communicating to Google down the road, that you are a big thought leader in your space. Am I off track, Ronnie?
No, I think you're right on track, but let me throw in some other less techy, at least from my perspective, less techy, more fuzzy, but actually big picture concepts. When we're inside of a video hangout, you and I are talking. You and I have created a relationship, and therefore you and I will see more of the things that we post individually. You could do that a little bit at a time, and that's how many people start with Hangouts. You have a personal connection you would make with people, and this is incredibly valuable. But along top of that is when we do broadcasts, now it's possible for hundreds or thousands of people to start to build and grow a relationship with you because they're watching you and they relate to what you've said and they believe in what you're saying. So they have built what we call trust. They start to trust you. And I know you just talked with David Amerland not too long ago, and I'm sure he used the words trust because that's part of what we are doing here. We're establishing a way to build trust, and it's a very quick an efficient way to build trust because of the power of video. That, then I'll sum it up and let you jump right back. That is one of the pieces of the future that when you are doing this, you're using these tools to build trust, you're going to gain social credibility, and that credibility is going to tie into your social signals, which will then make the connections of all the things that you're posting more visible to those that have come to trust you.
Right. And if you're first to the party, and you start claiming your digital territory, you will be the ones that benefit from that transition that takes place. Now, we have a question that's going to come up in just a moment from Scott Scrowcroft that I would like to talk about, but it's going to lead into where I'm headed. So, Scott, bear with me. Anybody that wants to post questions in the comment section, please do. We are monitoring it. Give you an idea. Just on our breast cancer campaign, I'm going to pop it up on the screen. I want to show you that we've got really tremendous growth since Breast Cancer Awareness Month here in October. And now we're approaching 700,000 social followers. And the really cool thing about that for me is I want to make sure that people in our audience know that we're catering and we're doing a show for them. And we're trying to educate and really tap into what their needs are. So, that's what happens when your audience starts seeing the work that you're doing. And then I want to give you a tip on how to be able to make some money off of it, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose, right? At the end of the day, you want to engage with people. You want your business to succeed. So what we did at Wirebuzz is, we're in the breast cancer space. So we did a live event. We went to the largest breast cancer symposium of the year. I actually go to all of them. I'm on the conference tour, and we set up a room near the speakers area where there were live interviews, and we did 9 hours of live interviews every day, 3 hours a day, and a new expert came off of the podium and sat down with us every 10 minutes. We got a sponsor for that event that did more than cover our expenses. But let me show you the really cool thing, and this is where it dovetails into where Scott Scowcroft's question is, I want to dominate search. So for an event like this, I went in and had our crew on location, and we edited up all the questions that were asked during those 9 live hours. So here's just an example. This is like 1 full hour, and you chop it up into multiple 3-minute clips. You post it on your site. You socially engage it. You get really remarkable definitive indicators of relevance. And then you start getting freakish search results like we got when we did that at the conference. Now, this is in 2012, and Google has now changed the game a little bit where you can't have you can't dominate all the search results, but you can see that everything in red were our little 3-minute clips. And it ended up generating 163,000 views for the searchable key phrases that we were targeting. So if you can use Hangouts, repurpose them masterfully into short little clips, and then use that with a client and get a client to sponsor it or a client to create that, you create that content for the client's website, now you've got a really profitable business model that you can be leveraging to advance your service or advance your product. What are your thoughts on that, Ronnie?
I agree with that, and I'm going to bring up Scott's question or comment and just put that right on the screen here. And it basically, he's saying, for the average producer, the typical producer, is there a place for editing their Hangouts into the smaller segments, or is that a little too time intensive? So it has to do with timing and value, right?
Yeah, it's all about time and value. So here's the deal. What you would do is go to YouTube and use the editing tools, the editing function that's included inside of the actual video. Has some, you go onto that video page and then you could start editing it. And what YouTube will do is it'll create another video that's been edited down, which is just beautiful, which means you really don't need to have a big editing crew. You don't need to have a lot of content people. You just go and grab the most valuable clips and allow them to really speak for you socially. Search engine optimize it. You'll see from an article that came out just 2 days ago, something that we've been doing since 2007, and I was sad to see the story come out because I like keeping things on the down low while they're working really well. But you want to upload you want to transcribe that interview or that piece of content if you want to dominate in search, and then upload that into the closed captioning system. And now you've really got an optimized piece of content that Google can read, because it can't read video. It's got to read text. You got to provide both if you want to dominate search. Ronnie, did that answer his question?
I think it did, but it's also, I know it's a loaded question because I know Scott. Scott does this. This is part of what he does for his living, is he takes people's Hangouts on air and actually edits them. He adds a bumper before and after, and he takes away some of the ums and the ahs, and he does a really good job making it really nice premium content. So part of his question was, I think, hey, if you don't have time, hire Scott because he can help you to do that.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah. So it's based on time and value again there, so that when you are determining and you're able to see that chopping up the videos into smaller pieces will be adding value to you, because it'll add more views that will then draw people to your place where you have a call to action, then I believe you're going to really find that it's something you are willing and capable to pay for.
Yeah, it's super cool. Hangouts on air, remember, it's your own broadcast studio. And if you or your client has audience, then you can start charging to tap into it. I'm doing something that I'm not going to be announcing yet, but a live Google Plus Hangout on air with Major League Baseball at a stadium for cancer awareness at the end of August, and that should be announced soon. But these events are really great opportunities for you to position your business as a thought leader, your experts as wise, insightful gurus in your business niche, and then use those videos to help nurture your relationships that drive revenue. We got a bunch of questions. Do you want to go to a couple questions and then we go from there?
Sure. I'll bring one up. This was from Wayne again. He's asking about saying that his SBA, Small Business Association, advised him to start focusing on algorithms. Would we say it more important to focus on social media? And I believe it's a mix. I believe that the social media world uses algorithms to figure this out. And in my mind, and maybe you tell me, Todd, whether you think I'm way off base. As far as I'm concerned, the new SEO, the new way to optimize, is using social. I really do believe that the semantic intent, the understanding, the connections of the people, why they are following you, whether they're experts in their world and that world ties to your world, all of this stuff weighted together ends up affecting search results in a, how would you say, harder to game method. And so as a result, I believe that Google's going to be paying much more attention to this than what we might in the past call traditional algorithms.
Yeah, okay, so that's a really good point. I've had a bunch of private conversations with people in the office here on our content, and we're really out on the forefront on the transition of where Google's headed and making sure that we're socially engaging everything so we could get those really key performance indicators that Google will be looking for. We're not seeing a tremendous amount of social results turning into Google search results yet. But I think this is very soon. We are seeing things, and you could see it from like Mark Traphagen when he posts his content right into Google+. It's already showing up inside of Google search right away. But I look at it like the NBA right now. First, you've got to have really strong content that's engaging, that gives the right type of key performance indicators or the right type of social signals, because you're going to want links, but you're also going to want some traditional SEO. Your titles are super valuable around your content, but like the NBA is doing, each team is in the process of optimizing during free agency their rosters, right, so they can win. And what we do is we optimize our clients' content so they can win, and the content that gets the best search results is video. And the reason is, when you add video to an article page, it's 53 times more likely to show up on the first page of Google search than any other type of content. That's remarkable. When you look at the social and the way that audience engages, the time on page or the time on video is dramatically longer than text. You get about 20 seconds on 1,000 keywords, or 1,000 words, on a page with text, but you really end up getting about 2.7 or 2 minutes and I want to say 70 seconds, but that would have been embarrassing. So about 2 minutes and about 40 seconds on video on average. So the time on page is different, and Google looks at that. That's important. And you want to make sure that if you've got people that are looking at your content, it should be optimized content. And for me, because of the results, it should be video. So right. I think that in a roundabout way, Wayne, answers your question. I know it's a difficult one, but I think just like Ronnie mentioned, it should be both. Your page should be optimized, and it should be socially engaged.
But we have an option when we're doing social to use it in a natural way. When we say we're going to focus on the algorithms, then we have to try to squeeze things into what we think Google's doing, and Google's going to change it by the time we figure it out anyways. So this is where the value, I believe, of doing both helps. So I came from a background of video SEO. So, this is right in line with what Todd does. And that was my background before the Hangouts came out. So when I post, I think like an SEO guy, meaning I think, what's my title? What's the right type of words to use in my title, which is then going to trigger in that algorithmic part, but I'm doing it inside of a social, so that allows me that extra social push as well.
In our office, we say if we just spent 3 hours working on a video and we end up writing a title, and that title we spend a minute, if that, then we failed. Because you have to make sure that that title has the right search elements in it and the right key phrases and be positioned the right way to really give the search engine an opportunity to discover that content. The text on the page is valuable. We transcribe everything we do here because we want it to be read. We want Google to be able to see it. We want to add it into the closed captioning system. Now, we might be moving a little bit too far away from the sweet spot of this conversation, which is where are Google Hangouts headed and how do you position your business to profit? But so by moving us back just a little bit into our sweet spot, Ronnie, help me help the audience. Where can people be using Hangouts as opportunities to position their business? Few people do it better than you. What can people be doing?
One of the things that's common and actually works really well, I believe, is to establish yourself or others as experts in their field. And this means interview type shows. And one of the things that is just not obvious but could be and should be is the fact that there are no geographical boundaries at all when we do Hangouts. So it's very possible for me to find an expert somewhere else in the world or two experts and bring them into a conversation and let that be part of my impact. I bring their value into what I'm doing, and vice versa. We can change, and then they can bring me into their place. So this collaborative effort that does not require you to leave your office, if you get right down to it, is something I think very, very valuable. And another part that I think is part of the future of Hangouts that's going to make a difference is trying to make them interactive. So I'm going to throw out a new acronym. I just came up with this when Todd and I were talking about what we were going to cover. I call it PPI. PPI. In my old world, I used to be a graphics guy, so that was pixels per inch. But now I've got a new version for it. And I'm just going to make sure I say the words right. Okay. Personal, presentation, interaction. Okay? If someone goes through that process and they're using Hangouts to become personal, as a brand, as an example, this is going to put a face on the brand. People will then come to know, like, and trust the brand. So they start being personal. Then many times people, actually they may skip that and they go right to the second one, which is presentation. They use this as a presentation tool to talk about something they're encouraging people to go do or use or learn. So just the presentation alone is where they get stuck. They never start to try the personal part, and I think they're missing out on that. But let's just say you work with a presentation. It's a good tool for that, but then I encourage you highly to go beyond that, because, and this is where many brands never do it. They never move on to the interactive aspect. To me, this is the game changer of all game changers for Hangouts, is the ability for us to bring up a comment from someone who's watching right now, like we've been doing, put it right on the screen and say, thanks Scott, thanks Wayne, thanks Mark, thanks Preston, thanks, just go through the list. And now these people just became part of the conversation without having to physically, it's not physical, sorry, to be in the film strip. Right. They weren't even necessarily part of it that way, but they are part of it. And as a result, if you're a brand and you're trying to interact with your viewers, there's nothing as powerful as live interaction that you can get inside the Hangout. And I like to credit that to Sarah Hill, someone you may have heard of. She coined the phrase long time ago, now almost 3 years ago, called yelling at the TV. That hit me like nothing else. The ability to yell at the TV and the TV can answer back. This is new. This is a big game changer, and still people are not really taking advantage of it yet.
Yeah, it's so cool. All right, so the the information that Ronnie gives is invaluable. You can always find out more by going to the hangouthelper.com. That's his personal service that he provides to people that are that really want to master Hangouts and use it for business purposes. And so the reason I brought Ronnie here is, I know he understands Hangouts better than anybody and knows how to leverage it. I know that the two of us together can paint a really clear picture for you where Hangouts are going and how you could be leveraging them to advance your business and ultimately to profit. We did get one comment from that was very interesting. Mark said, "This is skating to where the puck is going." And I totally agree. Our whole business here at Wirebuzz is following the Wayne Gretzky philosophy of skate to where the puck is headed, not where it's been. And when you do that, you arrive places before your competitors. That's why you've got to be resourceful and nimble. You got to be willing to learn a new trick. I want to encourage everybody out there to start thinking of Hangouts and the Google Plus platform as their opportunity to start educating their target customer, to start recognizing that there are events that are that are really big news events, and that they can get there and they could be a reporter on the scene. They can make a little money off of that. I'll give you an example. I got asked to host the JFK 50th anniversary of the assassination. And so you can see right over here, this is my laptop, right? And I've got it on the same exact spot that Abraham Zapruder stood on when he filmed that famous tape of JFK coming down the street. The really cool thing is all of you have the opportunity in your business. If you're part of a business association, you can make money going and covering that association's event and bring that to all the people that didn't make it to the event. Because when you go to a conference or you go to an association's event, maybe only 10% of the members actually get to that event. But those 90% still need to be educated, and somebody wants to get in front of them. Every booth at a conference is trying to get eyeballs of the people that are at the booth in the vendor section. But what about the people that didn't make it? Don't they deserve to be educated and informed? And there's a sponsor there that'll pay you to go out and start creating these Hangouts. I've done it. I know Ronnie's got a really cool one coming up in just a couple of weeks. Why don't you tell everybody what you're going to be doing?
Sure. In the past, I've done a couple years in a row of South by Southwest, which is a tech music conference that goes on in Austin, Texas. And that's done for this year. It happens in March. But coming up in just 2 weeks, I'm going to Oshkosh, Wisconsin, which is just little old Oshkosh, but it actually becomes the busiest airport in the world for a week with a thing called AirVenture, or other people know it as just Oshkosh, and another name is Experimental Aviation Association. So they got a branding issue they're dealing with. But bottom line is we're going to be broadcasting live from the airfield in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, talking about some of the newest technology that is coming out for planes and aircraft. And it's going to be, I think, one of the very first times Hangouts has ever entered that space. And I know because we're working with the people that run the whole event. And by the way, there's about 500,000 people that go in a week to that event. So it's massive. And it's going to be the first time, as far as we know, that Hangouts are going to be used. And now they're going to watch very closely what we're doing this year to see whether they're going to start, they meaning the creators of the event, how much they're going to embrace this technology, because for them it's actually brand new because I'm bringing it to them. They've never seen it before.
That's pretty remarkable. The audience that watches live is going to be significantly smaller than the audience that'll watch on demand. When we brought Hangouts to the San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium, really the Super Bowl of all breast cancer events annually, we had 4,500 people that watched live over 3 days. And I didn't know what to make of it. I knew the dollar amount didn't equate to that being a success. But once we had a very smart post strategy, which we were editing during the entire event and posting up individual clips, it became, instead of 4,500 people that watched live, it became 163,000 that watched on demand. So think about ways that you could really expand your Hangouts influence and start thinking about who your potential customer or client could be in leveraging these Hangouts to help you make, improve your bottom line or theirs. With that said, we've got, in our closing moments, what did I neglect to talk with you about today that would be valuable for people who are working to get a virtual master's degree on Google and where it's headed for their business?
I would say, and this is going to be self-serving, but it's also to help your clients, meaning help people that are watching right now, that if this type of tool, meaning the Hangout on Air thing, is something that's going to be important to you, you want to know how to use it right. Because if you don't, you're going to end up like a lot of people. They're going to try using it, they get stuck with the technology, and they lose track of the message. So my goal as a trainer is to help you learn so the technology disappears. And then you're doing your presentation and you're focused with the interaction if you can, and eventually that's where you should head. But you need to know how to master the tool. And the tool, whether you look like it or not, keeps changing. It's a very fluid environment. So that's what I've made this thing right behind me, the Hangout Mastery, for. It's a place, it's a membership group where you get to come in, you get to keep up with the latest and greatest, you learn it on the cutting edge, because I help develop these tools, I'm not allowed to say things until they release it publicly, but once it's public, bam, right then you get to learn about it because I've been playing with it. So the people that are part of that mastery group get the best education, and the best part that I've seen from them is they build a community. We've built a community where they're all starting to learn with each other as well as do joint ventures, and new businesses have been born from within that environment. So whether you're part of mine, which I'd love you to be in, or not, find a way to learn the technology. Don't just come right out and do your first one out of the gate and expect it to work perfectly. There's a process. We're running out of time, so we're not going to talk about what that whole process is, but bottom line, find a way to learn the tools so that you focus on your message instead of the tool when you're doing your broadcasts.
Yeah, very well said. In fact, here's another thing that's very well said. Wayne said, Hangouts on air in the air? That's what you're going to be doing, Ronnie?
Well, I've actually, yeah, we'll see. I'm not advertising that yet because we don't know. But I've put in my wish list as to what I want to do out there, and if it works out, it's going to be incredibly awesome.
Well, there are two options with your Hangouts on the air, in the air. It would be either using, like a hotspot on your phone, right? Which would be my recommendation until you get to about 500 feet, or using a very long Ethernet cable. The choices are yours. So.
I don't think the cable is going to work very well.
Never know, man. Be cutting edge. It's
when you do the rotations of the aerobatics and things, they could get all messy. Yeah,
that could be a problem.
Yeah.
Well, he's Ronnie Bincer. He's really the guru of Google Hangouts on air. For more information and to learn about how Hangouts are magical and to learn how to do them to advance your objectives, you can go to thehangouthelper.com. That's thehangouthelper, all one word, .com. Ronnie, thank you so much for helping me live up to my goal today, which is to show people where Google's going, give them an opportunity to reposition or to guide their business or their clients, and ultimately to increase profit. I really appreciate you doing this.
It is my pleasure. Thanks for having me on your show.
Awesome. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Ronnie and I will check in throughout the day on the page, so feel free to post any comments or questions on things we didn't get to. And we thank you all so much for your participation right here on Where is Google Going and How Do You Profit From It?